And we really have to start doing that. We also have to start planning for when they're going to like clamp down on the internet too. I mean, there's going to be a day when like shit gets really crazy and you're not going to be able to log on to Twitter. You're not going to be able to see or communicate with people by that means, potentially, especially if this fire sale cyber attack that Klaus Schwab warned about in July was coming. The next COVID is a cyber attack, right? I've been talking a lot about that and how they're probably going to do that and the power grid and all of this stuff. I mean, it's time for people to start thinking, if that happens, since it seems likely, and they pretty much told us it's likely to happen, right? What will you do that day? Who will you go find? What will your plans be? I mean, we have to start sort of thinking about this stuff because we really need to get local and off of the screen. Like our whole social interaction and our whole resistance plan to this whole agenda cannot be exclusively digital. I mean, we really need to start building community locally, reaching out with your neighbors and stuff like that. Even if your neighbors are kind of normies, right? I mean, there's ways you can be like, well, it looks like things might get pretty crazy soon. So let's talk about some plans. You know what I mean? Because I mean, even if they buy a lot of the lies, I mean, they can still see the economic crunch that's happening. You know what I mean? So, I mean, there's ways you can approach them to, you know, think about things to do between you and your neighborhood and your community. So like it's resilient and you're not 100% dependent on all of your needs, including your social needs and whatever, you know, on a screen. You can't be totally dependent on the screen for everything because that's also what they want, right? They want you to be so dependent and so tied up with technology that they can enslave you with it. And so if we're voluntarily being like, well, yeah, I'm addicted to my screen and I refuse to, you know, remove myself from it and do other stuff, you know, that plays into their hands to a huge degree, you know.
I agree. The great resistance starts with you, and you've got to figure it out. And I'm trying to get, listen, I've been contacting everybody. I haven't gotten a lot of responses, but I want to storm the gates of all local government and just sit in. I'm not talking about getting violent. I'm talking about, hey. Well,
local is where it has to happen. It has to happen locally. Going to D.C., that's what they're expecting.
I don't want to do D.C. Why do D.C. when you can do your state Senate and your Congress, right? And go to your governor's mansion. I mean, the bottom line is they've already made you work from home. If you don't have any children, you have no excuse at this point. You can stay there a day, a week, a month if it takes that. We'll bring the public Wi-Fi, work from there. They want remote work? Well, let's do it from the halls of government until it ends. Because when there aren't outbreaks and people dying in the halls of government from this, what are they going to say? You know, it's not just a one-day protest or a two-day protest. It literally has to take what Occupy did and not be contrived, coerced, and manipulated like Occupy was. We're not talking about the 1%. This isn't the 1%. I hate to tell you, but even the governor, they're not the 1%. They're way beyond that.
This is less than the 1%.
Way less.
These assholes are playing for keeps. Right. This is the time, you know, if we just sit and wait this out and see what happens, there's not going to be another chance after this.
I 100% agree.
These guys are playing for keeps right now. And so, you know, if you don't do something now, you're not going to have an opportunity to do something later.
You know, it's a good transition to where we're at in Chaos 2020. You know, we've covered a lot of the warp speed stuff, the stuff that you can expect to be coming no matter who is declared the president in January. And right now, I'm seeing a lot less of the condescending liberal posts of, you know, Trump's a whiny baby or, you know, everybody gets a win or a participation trophy after the Pennsylvania judgment. And I still remember covering it that night, Joe Biden, before he went to bed, specifically talking about winning Pennsylvania eventually when he was down 700,000 votes. When they're all counted, he's going to win. Now we're seeing that not being certified. We're seeing Powell being cut off from the main legal team of Jenna Lewis and Giuliani. I expect that those lawsuits will probably linger long after any ruling that takes place, whether or not it be Supreme Court, whether you get Trump or Biden. I think those are going past January. That's just my take on it. You tell me what you think is going on now that you're starting to see a little bit of this stuff roll forward in the public eye.
Well, I think we're going to see a lull for a little bit, maybe for another week or two. But by the time we get to where the Electoral College is going to vote, when's that? Like the 14th of December, something like that. Yeah, that's when things are going to be interesting again in the U.S. I think we're going to see these dueling electors. We've already seen some of these lawsuits, right, where they're like going against electors specifically. The idea that some governors will send dueling electors to the Electoral College. All of this, by the way, was gamed out by the Transition Integrity Project, the DNC, and the neocons. So, and they've already seeded it in the media like it's going to happen. And I think that's a period of time where they really want to make chaos too, right before Christmas and all of that stuff. So I definitely think that that's going to be the next period where things, the pre-planned chaos or whatever gets a little dicey, right? And of course, I think that'll continue through January. That's when you have Congress reconvene in the beginning of January. And then inauguration day is what, like the 20th or something like that?
Yeah, January 20th.
So there's a couple, right. So there's a couple key dates to look for. But what I really think, though, is that, and I've said this before, a lot of this shit is theater, pre-planned theater by both sides, because, both parties are behind the Great Reset. Even if Trump is like playing like he's going to slow it down a little bit, his whole cabinet is also super tied up with people like Peter Thiel and Palantir. And
Peter
all of
Thiel
this
was
stuff,
his technology advisor. And,
he set up the transition team. So many of Trump's early on picks were handpicked by Peter Thiel.
Yes.
And, it's not good. And they were given all of these contracts by HHS. They have a huge role in Operation Warp Speed. That agenda might slow down slightly under Trump. But I mean, I think that might also be naive too, because like when presidents are reelected for their second term, they stop giving a fuck because they don't have to win elections anymore. You know what I mean? And we've also seen this seeding of the narrative that Trump might strike Iran soon. Today, we learned that a major Iranian scientist was assassinated, 100% obviously a professional hit team by Mossad. That's pretty blatant. And they've been assassinating scientists for years. So, we have the cyber attack thing they've been warning about too, which, they've set up Iran and probably China to take the fall for that.
And it seems like they've coupled those guys, by the way, Whitney. Iran and China are coming closer and closer to, an allied narrative in this country. And you began to see that with COVID-19. With China, the CCP first saying that they believed it to be a U.S. military bioweapon. And then within a couple weeks, the inner regime, I think it was something like 14 members of the inner regime die suddenly from COVID in Iran.
Yeah, it wasn't COVID, though. I think I figured out actually what happened there. And also in Wuhan and some of these other places. But I have to get some of that into an article form. But
so before we get there, let me just talk about that for a second, because a lot of people forget that. And I think it's important because especially in the beginning hysteria, before it had really reached the West, before the lockdowns had started, it was pretty apparent that there were really two different things going on. There were people that were dropping dead that were in their 30s, 40s, 50s within 1 or 2 days. And then you were seeing the other people that were getting into the hospital, even put on ventilators in China and being diagnosed with the lung stuff late stage, but they'd already had it for a while. It was two different things. And then they were seeding the narrative that you had these different strains and mutations. You had Iran come out after the deaths inside saying they thought it was a U.S. bioweapon without spoiling anything for what's coming up. What's the basic thesis of what may have actually taken place there?
Well, I don't think it was a bioweapon. I actually think it was a poison that had originally been developed by Mossad in the late 90s. That's a modified version of fentanyl. And what they've also been saying over the course of last year, because also they've also been saying there's going to be like a bioterror attack by Iran and China coming up. And all last year, there were all these neocons saying that China is deliberately murdering Americans with fentanyl. And things like this, while also saying that Iran doesn't have biological weapons, but they're developing pharmaceutical-based agents that include modified fentanyl that they may use for international adventurism purposes. And at that same time, you had DHS trying to reclassify fentanyl as a weapon of mass destruction. But what's worth pointing out I don't want to go too much in depth because I don't want to give away the whole research arc here, right? But I think it's important to get out at this point, also because I'm super burnout and It's a huge report, so I don't know how long it's going to take me to.
Well, I think it's important
to
because
get out.
people don't realize that, especially in the run up to March, right? And what we were seeing there, and we were seeing in Europe too, right? You wonder what was happening in those first waves in Europe. That narrative was being set that it could kill somebody who was a healthy person. I mean, if you looked at some of these people in Iran, that's when it was like, whoa, wait, what's going on here? And how quickly they died.
Wuhan, right? And northern Italy. Those were the 3 hotspots where all these people were dropping dead. Pretty weird, right?
Yeah.
So going back to the late 90s, right, there was this failed assassination attempt of a leader of Hamas with a poison that was developed by Ness Siona, Israel's biological weapons lab. It was a modified version of fentanyl. Basically, it was supposed to be a covert poison, so it didn't look like he'd been poisoned at all. It was supposed to mimic a severe respiratory disease by basically shutting down the respiratory center of the brain, and they ended up putting this guy on a ventilator, right? This was the late 90s.
Mm-hmm.
Netanyahu is the guy that had personally ordered that assassination. And he was forced to send the head of Mossad to negotiate in Jordan because the Mossad assassins got caught and were holed up in the embassy in Amman, Jordan, where they tried to enact this assassination attempt. So they had an antidote. And of course, they've been trying to assassinate Mossad. They're pretty open about it. Assassinate Iranian scientists and top Iranian officials. And that has escalated hugely this year, beginning with the Soleimani assassination, and which wasn't just the U.S. Israeli intelligence. It came out later, was intimately involved in all of that.
Which has been celebrated here by many on the MAGA train. And I get arguments all the time. I go, what are you talking about? It's okay to drone somebody in Iraq who acted as our ally, taking out ISIS, all of it recorded. He is loved in that.
Soleimani was on a diplomatic mission when he was in Baghdad. I mean, it was really egregious, and it was a clear extrajudicial assassination.
No matter what you think you know about that guy, he was loved in that country, and we will never have a death of a political official, president or otherwise, where there are 6 million people lined up throughout the streets in memoriam of them. And again, that's what gets me, is that people are so small-minded. America, even if they think they're Trump woke, right? They're MAGA woke, and they don't know what the fuck's going on. That was so egregious. And you talk about the Israeli influence, you talk about the Mossad operations and their involvement with Soleimani's assassination. I mean, you look at the love fest that went on between Pompeo and Netanyahu the other day. Oh my goodness. Oh my god.
They're absurd. Like their bro love is very disturbing, I find.
It could be the most demented Valentine's Day card you could ever make. I mean, those guys were making eyes at each other like I've never seen 2 men in their 50s and 60s do.
Yeah, it's nasty. It's 100% nasty. But going back to the fentanyl thing, right? So Iran was like the only country that had its political class hammered. And like 3 weeks, they had like 30 top politicians die. It was the only country in the world that was like that. The other place where COVID-19 originated in Iran was this place in the middle of nowhere. And the only thing it was known for was a facility that was involved with Russian nuclear scientists in the 1990s. And the scientists there started dropping dead within 24 hours. And the doctors in that town had seen reports of what was going on in Wuhan and just decided it was the same thing without testing. Speaking of fentanyl, it's worth pointing out that Wuhan, before it was famous for coronavirus, was famous for something else. And that was for being the world capital of chemicals needed to manufacture fentanyl.
Whitney Webb kills it every time here, folks.
Yeah, it turns out that northern Italy, which was also hit hard, is a major hub for the trafficking of opiates and fentanyl. That's where ISIS, which of course has ties to U.S. and Israeli intelligence, was getting all of their opioids from, being funneled through ports in northern and southern Italy. So very interesting to see them hit hard. It's also where the Sacklers' international branch, Mundi Pharma, was very active and about to get slammed by lawsuits for their illegal marketing. And it's worth pointing out that last year, Teva Pharmaceuticals, which is an Israeli company that used to be owned by Charles Bronfman and Robert Maxwell, They were getting in trouble for being outed for fueling the opioid crisis in the U.S. last year. Their biggest shareholder is Warren Buffett, best friends of Bill Gates and number 3 at the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation.
Part of the good guys club. He's a good guy.
Teva Pharmaceutical was about to go under last year because of all these lawsuits and other debt-related issues. Now, what's happened under the guise of COVID-19, Teva Pharmaceuticals was behind the whole hydroxychloroquine bonanza. They donated hundreds of millions of doses. Hydroxychloroquine, they say, is supposed to work with zinc, but when they were donating it, it wasn't given with zinc. It was given with a cocktail of drugs, including fentanyl. And now fentanyl has flooded U.S. hospitals, and also because of the lockdowns, the opioid crisis is worse than ever. And who's benefiting? It's not really hard to figure it out, especially because Wuhan got hit super hard. So did Northern Italy. The whole supply chain for fentanyl globally has been drastically altered by what's gone on this year. So there's definitely some shit going on there. And, you know, Wuhan, what happened in Wuhan, what happened in Iran, and what happened in Northern Italy, that didn't happen in other cities.
No.
You would think, you know, what happened in Wuhan, okay, if that was a virus, that would have spread to Beijing or some other big cities. I mean, China has a huge population. COVID-19 in Wuhan hit in during a very high period of travel. It was like, what, around Chinese New Year or something, right before then. So, I mean, if it was a virus, it would have popped up like that in other places, but it didn't. And it was just like what happened in 1997 to that Hamas leader.
Well, I would argue that it did. It just wasn't killing people. I think it was in the States November last year. I think my entire, you know, I've had Dr. Bartlett on about his budesonide treatment, and I'll never forget it. My girls, one after another, I mean, the one was crying in the bed, asking me to hug her, and I did. And one week she was sick, the next week the other one was sick in the bed, and then my sister got so sick, and she was hitting the inhaler. You know, this is before, I mean, this is November, December of last year. And, you know, although I never got those type of symptoms, I've never had lung issues where I had to change my blunt brand. Yes, everybody knows I smoke weed here, you know? So I'm just saying.
That's all right, Jason.
Look, I'm pretty open about it. I don't think it's a big deal. I mean, especially,
it's okay.
You know,
I mean, most of the people slaying these days in independent media are potheads, myself included. So,
I'm just saying, I've been smoking blunts, guys, since I was 16 years old. That's 25 years. All right? And that's, you know, I don't smoke cigarettes.
The street cred out of control.
Well, I'm just saying, I don't smoke cigarettes. I don't drink much outside of a bar situation ever. That's something, obviously, everybody that watches this show knows I do. And I'm telling you, I changed my brand. I was waking up in the middle of the night coughing so heavy. I'm like, am I just 40? Is this just it? Am I just fucking old? Am I just, is it over? And now I feel like, normal again. I feel like $1 million. And you've got to wonder. And by the way, the mainstream media has now backed up and said, oh, yeah, it was definitely here before March. They've moved it into the January, February range, but I think it was here.
But I'm not talking about what you're talking about. I'm just talking about what happened in Iran, Wuhan, and Northern Italy that wasn't anywhere else.
My argument is
November wasn't that long after there were all these leaks at Fort Detrick last year also.
All I'm saying is that my argument is that you're talking about the Chinese New Year and the spread of it. I think it did spread, but that was the COVID-19. That was the virus. Whereas all this other stuff that was based in fear may have been something else. And,
like people dropping dead in the streets. I mean, whatever COVID-19 is, it doesn't do that, you know?
Exactly. Well, again, if you look at even March in New York, I always said that they were selectively finding that first hotspot in New Rochelle. Had they tested anywhere where they found a patient with COVID-19 like symptoms, with what we now know is a 90+% asymptomatic rate in every single randomized population that they do. So my point being, if you did an entire school like they did in my town at Oneonta, when they found 1,000 positives, 990 of them were completely asymptomatic. It was a 99% asymptomatic rate. We're talking about not even a fever. They did it in prisons in Ohio. It was a 96% asymptomatic rate. They did it with the homeless population in Boston. That one was 100%. So my point being is that this thing could have easily rapidly spread. It wasn't until the media hype and the fact that some people started to get sick, aka the nursing homes, right? And then the hospitalizations. And now here we are. So, Whitney, what's your take now that we're here, you just talked about the fentanyl. I'm sure you've seen the Pfizer executive that's blown the whistle and said, yes, this was real, but it's over. What can we expect coming up with, if we get a Biden administration? Talk about some of those appointees and where that could lead.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is why I think it's important for people on the, especially on the right, to not like this lawsuit stuff with Trump. It's theater and it doesn't matter. Okay. What we have to be doing right now, people need to be coming together on left, anyone with fucking sense, okay, in the US, I don't care what your political affiliation is. What Biden is setting up is ridiculously terrible. It has to be stopped. And the good thing is that it can be, because they still need time to set up all this shit. And Biden's not officially in office. They're planning, okay? But we really need to, create a consensus here and fight against partisan division and whatever, and be really insistent that what Biden is pushing for does not come to pass, because it's Build Back Better, which now the Daily Beast is saying the Great Reset and Build Back Better are conspiracy theories. They can go eat a bag of dicks.
Will Sommer follows me. I'm sure he follows
on the
you.
cover of Time magazine, The Great Reset. There's a whole book called The Great Reset, written by the dude that we're saying is responsible for it.
Whitney, it's not just a book called The Great Reset. In bigger letters than The Great Reset, it says COVID-19 in the headline. We'll do it live here for anybody that doubts us. This is why it's insanity. You go to Time magazine, not only is it a cover, there's an entire section of each specific part of this Great Reset. And one of the things I've been focusing on, we're going to do this live just so people understand how in your face it is. Schwab Great Reset book. A child could do it. And I mean, again, in large blue letters.
A child could do it, but Will Sommers at the Daily Beast cannot. So.
Will Sommer would be my... Listen, Will, I hope you're listening to this because I know you follow me. I'm going to tag you in this one. Bro, you'd be my bitch in any kind of an open debate. I'd take you in any subject, anytime, any day. Pick your moderator, and I'll own your ass.
Hey, these people won't. I mean, they're cowards and they're stenographers, and they're getting really not creative. I mean, okay, so you're going to say it's a conspiracy theory, the Great Reset, when it's like the most blatant thing ever. Okay, like billionaires want to get together to remake society in a way that benefits them. They've been doing it for decades. Like, fuck off.
Have you seen the latest commercial for the Great the one that starts off with "You will own nothing," but at the end, what I find really interesting is they start telling you that we're going to Mars. And that you're going to be in space, and we're going to keep.
No, I hadn't seen that.
Oh, okay. We got to do it.
Yeah, we're going to go to Mars.
Whitney, let's do it because I think
we're going to blow up the planet and enslave everyone here. But some of us could go to Mars, maybe. What the fuck? Okay.
Listen, again, we're gonna do it live. Great Reset. Let's see if I can find it here. I think it's yes. Man. Here we go. Wait till you see this thing. It is the wildest, most ridiculous thing. These are the 8 predictions for the world in 2030. Okay? Now, you're going to own nothing. No big deal. You're going to be happy because...
Oh, look at that happy dude that owns nothing. And
he's got a drone to rent everything. Everything's great. Okay? We're not going to be the world's leading superpower in the U.S. It'll be a handful of nations. Okay? They're going to be the ones that dominate. And now, don't worry. You're not going to die. We've got organs for you. Sure you do. We're going to print them. Okay? Like the regular person's getting this technology, guys. You're not going to eat a lot of meat because we're going to outlaw and ban that. It's probably going to be $27 a pound for prime rib. It's an occasional treat. All right? And now the carbon tax agenda is coming in, and they're getting you ready for climate change and refugees.
Well, they've already started combining it. The New Zealand president is going to declare a climate emergency today or tomorrow or something. So now they're going to lump in COVID-19 emergencies with climate emergencies. I mean, they're really gunning for this shit.
And before we go over, I want to let people know, please check out Shade the Motion Picture. I'd say Rosalind Peterson, bless her soul, did such a great job back then, 7 years ago, talking about the carbon credit scam and how all it is a pay-for-play scam that does nothing, even if you believe that carbon emissions are ruining the planet, to curb them. And here's where it gets fun, Whitney. You ready?
Oh, goody.
We're going to Mars!
You could be preparing to go to Mars. It's like they'll dangle it in front of you like a carrot and a stick, but
Look,
no one
they're
will
going to
go.
keep you healthy in space. It gets better. Here comes the ancient alien agenda. We're going to find alien life, too.
Hey, did you see how they found those monoliths in Utah and they were being like it was aliens here and it was literally the same monoliths from 2001 A Space Odyssey? These people are so not creative. Like, fuck you guys, dude.
When I saw
They're
that.
so dumb.
And the thing is that, unfortunately, we have a crossover for people that like buy into all that stuff and listen to assholes like David Wilcock. And so what I did when I saw that, I was like, you know what? I said, that's one of two things. I go, it's either a really creative art project that somebody did and just wanted to see when it would blow up in the media, or it's a prank TV show. So now that people have gone back and gone on Google Earth, it's been there for like 5 years. Okay, so it wasn't there in 2014. Somebody put it there. I don't think that any cameras could be running, but who knows? You never know. That there's some productions. Maybe you're going to see it on a TV show goofing on the people that found it. It's an interesting Banksy-like art project. It isn't aliens. It isn't crazy-haired guy. It isn't a message from Q. Like, what the fuck is wrong with people? And that, I feel like that went viral like that, and I understand why it did. I'm a big 2001 fan. I'm a big Kubrick guy. But let's get into reality. How about we make the fact they're telling us that we're going to Mars and we're not going to eat meat and they're taking everything away from us and you're not going to own shit a headline. That's what needs to be focused on.